It's my favorite day of the week. We almost made it to the weekend, but first take on a Friday. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam.
What's up,
How we doing?
How y'all doing?
I'm good.
Let's go.
Let's get into it. Coming up, guess who's joining us? WWE superstar Seth Rollins will be in the house. Stay tuned for that. So much to get into with him. But first, we're going to kick things off in the National Football League. Here's the latest. James Harrison, Clay Matthews, and Julius Peppers have agreed to meet with NFL investigators, according to our Chris Mortensen. The league had threatened suspension if the players failed to meet regarding PED allegations stemming from an Al Jazeera report, sources have told ESPN. So Harrison has agreed to meet. It's August 30th at the team facility via a letter sent by the NFLPA to the NFL, which was acquired by ESPN. He's set conditions, though, limiting questions to only the segments cited in the Al Jazeera report in which he was identified. It is still uncertain if the league will accept these allegations. Here's Harrison on the situation.
If it goes to a conduct detrimental, it leans to the hands of that Crook, Roger Goodell, and he can do whatever he wants, that's just a collective bargaining agreement that the players signed. I've been prosecuted and persecuted, publicly in the media by them for something that I didn't do. So, I don't see why we couldn't have the media there and do a live interview. They can ask their questions and I can answer them, and y'all can see whatever evidence it is they say they got or don't have.
Harrison seems hot. The Crook, Roger Goodell, inbounds or out of bounds?
He's out of bounds. There's no question in my mind about it. First of all, the word crook implies that somebody stole something from you. Now, this is an individual, James Harrison, has been fined in excess of $150,000 over the years. So we would understand the vitriol, the venom, the hostility that he feels towards the commissioner. We're not even going to sit here and act like it's not invalid, that it's not valid, because it is valid to some degree. You might feel like the penalties have been excessive, that you didn't deserve some of those penalties. But it's still out of bounds because of the commissioner. It's still out of bounds because of some of the other things that James Harrison requires in terms of, suggesting the media show up and, do a public inquisition or whatever the case may be. As far as I'm concerned, if I were Roger Goodell, I wanted to send a message. I would suspend James Harrison right now. I would not wait until the 25th. I would not wait until the 26th. What's the day's date? What's the day's date? What's the day's
19th.
date? The 19th. I would suspend him right now. Literally, right now. You think you that bad? Let's go. Let's roll. Let's see how deep your pockets are. Let's see how deep the Players Association's pocket is. Because, you see, it shows that you're not living in the real world. Now, James Harrison is not the only professional athlete who is devoid of this level of sense in this regard. You have Major League Baseball players that have pulled this on occasions in the past. A lot of times we find ourselves asking, who the hell do they think they are? So this is not about James Harrison per se. It's not to cast aspersions on him. It's just to really identify the irrationality associated with everything, Max. That's what this comes down to. You are a football player. You play under the shield of the NFL. Your owner, okay, the Rooney family, I did not hear any of them coming out in support of you against Roger Goodell because they understand protocol. Robert Kraft may have came out in support of Tom Brady, but it was after he was willing to accept the consequences that was bestowed upon Tom Brady by Commissioner Roger Goodell, even though he disagreed with it, even though he was on record disagreeing with it. At the end of the day, you're not bigger than the product. You're not bigger than the brand. And I think this is one of those situations where James Harrison is going to have to learn that. You're talking about you've agreed to talk to them. We appreciate that. They're coming to the Steelers camp. We appreciate that. But when you say stuff the way that he has said things and essentially insisting on the media literally showing up for the inquisition. Well, if you think that's all right to say to your boss publicly, good luck with that.
Is that why you're suspending him right now, because of the comment?
Well, exactly, okay. Because of the comment. Because what I'm saying is, first of all, if James Harrison is somebody that I find to be a real dude, a real man, an honorable man. So if you know that you are innocent of PED use, I have no problem with the disgust. I have no problem with you proclaiming publicly your innocence. What I have a problem with is how he has acted in all of this. You've dragged this on. You've gone through extreme measures, as far as I'm concerned, in speaking out against the commissioner to a point where it definitely does. It doesn't border on insubordination. I think it exceeds it. Now, one would argue Roger Goodell is not his boss. He's the commissioner. But the commissioner has the power bestowed upon him by all of your bosses, which are the owners, which makes him the boss. And so that's just the way that it goes. To me, if I'm Roger Goodell, I'm sending a message. To be quite honest with you, I'm not saying I would definitively do it because he can speak his mind, but I would strongly consider suspending him right now just to make a damn point.
You are wrong about every single thing you just said.
I'm listening.
Even the one thing that you got right, you're wrong about. He said Crook. You said you can understand the vitriol because he's been fined, whatever. But when you're right, once you say Crook, you're saying someone took something from you illegal or stole something. That's just name calling, and unless James Harrison could be specific, what exactly did Roger Goodell steal? Now people are not going to be able to really hear what you're saying because they're just going to hear the word crook, which seems to me to be the one part that's out of bounds. About everything else, it's quite the opposite, Stephen A. Look, first, you seem to be into this idea that might makes right. Because Goodell does have the power to suspend him, or whether or not he actually has that power in the CBA, which is actually at issue here, he will suspend him, and then they're going to have to appeal. That's true, but because he has that power, James Harrison should just cave? I mean, the Players Association is, I believe, based on what I've read, correctly interpreting the CBA, saying, look, you're in the evidence-gathering process, don't have to talk to you yet unless you have evidence. If you're going to say the Al Jazeera report is evidence, fine, use that. But I don't have to talk. Okay, wait, you want me to talk to you? Okay, fine, I'll be the bigger person here. In the interest of transparency and kind of common sense approach, I'll talk to you. However, if we're going to do that, there are going to be some stipulations because I am not required to talk to you according to the CBA. That's their interpretation, Harrison's, the Players Association, and I agree with them. But, okay, we're going to do this. How are we going to do this? We're going to limit the questions to this inquiry because this is not going to be an inquisition, as you, I think, correctly termed it. Otherwise, it becomes an inquisition. It's going to be an inquiry about limited to the scope will be limited to these questions, and I'll be a good sport and do it. But because I don't trust you, which is his right, he shouldn't call him a crook, but it's his right not to trust him, I want the media there documenting this so that later on when the league claims, as they have in the past, that some things were said and then the player says, no, other things were said, we all know exactly what was said. And since he is not compelled by the CBA to talk to Roger Goodell in his opinion, in the Players Association opinion, in my opinion, and other independent people opinion, he doesn't have to do this. It's within his right to say, if I do this, here are the stipulations.
Right. You can say it was in his right, but let's dissect this just a little bit, okay? First of all, don't give me the Players Association. The Players Association will say he's wrong for passing gas, for crying out loud, because they want anything they can to take to court, because it seems like, you know what, the more we go to court, the more lawyer fees are piled up, those billable hours, and somebody's going to get paid for it. Hey, Jeffrey Kessler, how you doing, buddy? How you doing? That's point number one. Point number two, when you look at it from James Harrison's perspective, this man has been fined 6 times for in excess of $150,000 dating back to last year. They're talking about dating going as far back as 2010. There's some animosity, some vitriol there. There is such a thing as practicality that needs to enter the equation here. Who amongst us gets to go upstairs and say, well, you know what? We want to sit up there and make sure the media is involved and the public at large is privy to the conversations that we have with our boss. I'm talking from a realistic perspective. I'm not talking utopia. Let me ask you a question, rhetorically or otherwise. How many times would you like to have had eyewitnesses in attendance when you've had conversations with bosses? You know, where you prayed that somebody was there. You wish there was a fly on the wall. You wish there was some secret recording somewhere. You wish that the words that they said actually came to fruition. Listen, all I'm saying
is... So because you can't have that, he shouldn't have it either?
No. Exactly. Let me explain. You are a football player. Roger Goodell is the commissioner. You do have the right to have union representation. You do have the right to have an attorney in all likelihood. To sit up there and to say, well, if Roger Goodell's going to question me, I would like the media to be in attendance for that. So in other words, let me ask you this question. Is everything about these guys squeaky clean? What if Roger Goodell turned around and said, Let me invite the media in when I do have evidence against y'all using PEDs or DUIs or domestic violence or whatever. I didn't hear a whole bunch
But
of
here's
people.
the difference.
Hold on, wait a minute. I didn't hear a whole bunch of people standing up then wishing that the commissioner was on tape for that. There's a whole bunch of stuff
because
that we
James Harrison believes he doesn't have to submit to this interview. So if he's going to do it, there are going to be stipulations. And as to your